We have a cool one today. We are doing a Wendigo. Here is the design. Working this out right now. We're gonna print it from the stencil. I love when this happens. Let me tell you what happened this morning. I drew this exactly the way I wanted it to. I showed it to the client. I was like, do you like this? And they said, yes. And then I said, do you want to change anything? They said, no. That's how I know it's gonna be a good day today. So we have our stencil. We're gonna get this guy on here. I'm just gonna get some stress cracks. It's kind of a big one. We're working on the leg today. So typically, you go bigger with the leg sleeves and like an arm sleeve. So we got a nice big piece here. I'm looking to take up this whole side of his leg. So we are kind of here. What I'm looking at is I don't want too much wrap on this face. You know, I want this to be here. So this is gonna kind of end right here. If we get a little wrap at the end, that's okay. But our eye is pretty centered. And I'm thinking right here. What do you think, Fritz? Yes or no? You said looks good?
Yeah.
We'll see. The fact that you said it looks good makes me think it's probably not good.
That's fair.
Joe's laughing at you over there. So it actually, first look, does look pretty good. I'm sorry to have doubted you, Fritz.
That's all right, John.
So I'm just drying it off now with a paper towel. Yeah, I did want this eye to be centered. This is gonna be dark. Everything around the head is gonna be dark because the head is like bone, so it's gonna be light. So I want to create this nice dark frame around the head to really make it pop, the lightness pop. And then you can see I brought the flow down this way of this, you know, like hair kind of stuff, fur from its neck. And then we have a little rib cage in down here. I think this flow is really nice. We'll have a light face. I'll put a mild background in just to take up the whole outside. But this stencil looks really good to me. I might just mess with this a little bit to like come off the knee. All right, so we're gonna start on this bottom right, finish top left. We have a lot of fur here. I kind of just created a little light source here because there was a lot of dark to like break up. And then we have these ribs here, which are gonna be more like a mid-tone. I don't want them like extremely light. But yeah, so we'll have some dark, super light, mid-tone, dark again. The whole back will be dark. I got the 3RL to start, and we're gonna keep a lot of this down here pretty simple. I'm gonna leave as much detail, or most of the detail for the face. You know, I kind of want that to be the center point. So anything that's very far away from our center point, I'm going to try to leave relatively simple and just clean looking to keep the attention on our focus point, which is going to be the face. And then when I'm getting to like the edges of this piece, I'm just going to do like a fade out so that it'll be easy to come back in or add something to this. You know, if he ever wants to sleeve, no like hard cuts really. Fritz told me to hit you guys with some words of wisdom. My words of wisdom for today is do not leave your lunch in the back room because apparently Chris will throw it away, as he just threw away the whole shop's lunch. In reference to the tattoo, all right, let's get into this a little bit. What I'm doing now is I'm just essentially coloring in these strands in the fur. I'm separating, you know, the pieces. I'm keeping it pretty simple, you know. A lot of times in the past with areas like this, I might just have used a mag and kind of tried to like brush in some texture. Now I prefer it more like this, just doing the simple strands. When you break them down, they're really not that complicated. But as long as you know, get a nice fade in there, you keep the lines clean, you know, it looks really nice and presentable with not, you know, this crazy effort or like stressing yourself out over hair texture. You know, I kind of just creating these little spikes here, you know, and I'm running the strands down really just with like a single tone, and I'm making sure that, you know, it kind of differs as it goes to the next strand. Like I said, just kind of creating that separation, and I'm going to be doing this for most of the kind of fur texture in this piece. Give it more of like an illustrated feel rather than like a hyper realism. Finding my dark points, I'm kind of filling in my dark points in the fur here, which will help me build into my strands or my textures. And yeah, I'm just separating right now. I'm creating some shadows in here, creating some separation in the fur. And then I'm gonna take the mag, like I've done in the other videos, and go over the entire thing just to make it a little darker.
What's up, John?
What's up, boy?
So you're working on that eye.
Yeah, we're getting this eye in here. The eye's pretty dark. We're just still building. You know, I've been getting through the face, which we've left pretty light, but you're not really gonna be able, it's gonna be a little hard to see until we get all this black in here, you know? And if anything, I'm just moving this way because of my hand, you know, moving from right to left, so I'm gonna kind of be ending with that. But I'm being very careful to not make this area too dark, meaning the face, not the eye. And then I'll do all this black and look at it against that. And if anything, I can always make the face darker if I have to, but I'm trying to keep that in mind to keep it pretty light. You know, at least like the bone texture and stuff. And then anything outside of that, like the gap in the mouth, the eye, you know, we'll keep nice and dark. I had just put in, you know, some of the detail here. I have this really kind of soft antler object in the background, and I did all those with the 3RL. So now I'm taking this big 17 mag and I'm just going over it like I have in the past. I'm bumping the value, I'm getting it darker just to save some time. But when I do this with the mag, I need to make sure I'm doing it very smooth so I can still have the 3RL texture underneath. If I'm moving too quick or I'm not smooth, I'm going to create those mag drags, and that's going to create a whole separate texture that I don't want. You know, so I'm just being very careful with my mag as I'm going over it. I'm filling it up with you know, my black, but I'm also using some of the shading solution just to dilute it, because that kind of helps it come out a little smoother. So like all this in here, you know, this area here is just 3RL. You know, so I'll come just with that mag on top. It's really light, slow, steady. Make the whole thing darker. It might take a few passes to get it to the tone that you want. Having a gentle approach is going to be in your benefit with this. And then the process on the back, I'm really just following that exact process that I was just doing. You know, everything's going to be pretty dark. Now that I have this darkened up, I'm just going to kind of put a bottom line on it to create that separation. Now I'm going to be working my way down this. Once I finish this with the 3RL, I'm going to come back on top with the mag. So let me get this done quick, and then I'll show you what I'm doing with the mag. All right, so we got the details in, the little texture marks quick with the 3RL. And then I just made a quick marking with him standing up to make sure I knew where to cut it off. If you do that mid-tattoo, you should throw away the marker. That's something that has come up in discussion a few times with making marks while the skin is open. So just a reminder not to make anyone feel bad out there. But, okay, so I'm coming in with the mag, and now I'm just kind of brushing these shades out. When I'm doing this, I'm trying to be really intentional and like know what I'm doing, because we're going over skin that's already tattooed, and this does not feel great for your client. So we're just kind of like getting in and getting out. So I'm bringing this fade down, kind of staggering it a little bit, like making it a little choppy, just so it's not like a perfect line. Now in our reference, it's very dark, and I'm gonna be sticking pretty close to that. But you can see I have like, you know, a texture point in here. Really anything that is negative skin, I'm going to be darkening and going over. Just kind of pushing it into the background. And I can still create depth while I'm doing this with my mag. For example, I'll go over this outer skin tone piece first. I'm going to push it in that back layer. And now I'll go over both of them. So now I'll go over this old other one and then this new one. So I'm going to darken them together, but it also keeps them separate tones by hitting the back one first and then going over it. Running at 4.9, and I'm using straight black. Occasionally I'll be dipping into my shading solution just to help smooth it out a little bit. You can see I have a lot of like dilution in my ink right now, and this is going to give me like a light color. It's going to be really smooth. I'm just kind of going to push it to that red line. And remember, anything that's skin tone I want to get rid of. So like even this here, because it's all in comparison to the piece as a whole, you know. So even though it might look good in this little area here, when I roll him back, we're gonna try to get all the skin tone over here in the face. So I'm like deleting all the skin tone over on this side. Very gently, just going over the skin, slow and steady. Kind of start to see all this darken. We are at the best part of the tattoo, the end. We have this in here. I put a little bit of white down here in our light source, and then just some here on the peak. I added this light background in here, just kind of gave it some tree branch textures. Just because without it, there was a lot of skin here, which is okay, but just from like a side profile, I feel like it added some value, just an extra layer, so I threw it in there. It's gonna heal really light. It does help accentuate our skin tone and kind of light points. And then I just faded it off into nothing because we do have the black that wraps down here. So I felt like it created a nice balance. It adds some extra texture on the sides. As I said before in the video, in the beginning, we made this nice and dark so this frames out the face. The eye is immediately drawn to the face. So we want to have good control over our design and the viewer, right? So we have to keep these things in mind when designing. So we have a little bit of a light point here to create some balance. We have our main focus here at the top, and we do that with our light points. It has nice flow coming down the ankle, you know, on this kind of diagonal, and the face does this as well. We keep the direction the same throughout the piece, and now we are going to photograph it.